There's something called the weakness of strength. And what this means is that the very thing that can be a strength of someone that we admire in them, maybe something that attracts us to them, under different circumstances can be a weakness. There's always two sides to every coin. And when it comes to attributes that we find attractive, it's no different. An example of this is genius and insanity. Elon Musk is definitely a genius in all aspects of the word. The things that he's accomplished, what he's doing for the world, the things that he's projected to do, the moves and decisions that he's made in his lifetime, nothing short of exceptional. However, what he said in articles and in interviews is that he works 16 to 20 hours a day, often sleeping at the office or even sleeping on people's sofas, 7 days a week, 364 days of the year. For most of us regular folk, that is insane. Another great example of two sides of the same coin is love and hate. When we love someone deeply, it means we have the highest emotional state with them. If there's an ultimate betrayal or if they hurt us in some way, it's quite possible to, in fact, hate them. I don't actually think it's possible to have hate without love in the equation, because in most cases, hate is born out of love, whether because the person you love hurt you or whether because somebody hurt the person you love. Two sides of the same coin. Essentially, we can make the mistake of trying to ask for everything. And what we have to understand is that human beings, we're flawed creatures. Yes, it's important to know the strengths that you are looking for in someone, but also be able to recognize that there's another side to that coin that we have to be willing to accept. So that being said, we're going to go through 6 major strengths of being with a high value man, but also the trade-offs and the other side of that coin that comes with those said things. Things that you might have to be prepared to accept if you're going to be with this kind of man in order for your relationship to be successful. So the first trade-off is that if his strength is that he is very driven, the trade-off is that you will get less quality time with him. A lot of people think that people who are very successful, who have a lot of financial success and abundance, they think that they're just sitting at the 50th floor in the big office building with their feet up on the desk, just watching the hundreds of thousands roll in. And that is not even close to the truth. It's not even remotely how people on that level work. Men who are high earners or who are on their way to be high earners, they are working 70 to 90% of the time. Getting to a high level where you have a high income in the majority of industries takes sacrifice with time with family, time with friends, missed birthdays, missed Christmases, missed weddings. It takes a lot of that because their priority is to reach the high level that they're aspiring to. And part of that, when you're dating and being in a relationship with a guy like this, is that he will often be prioritizing his work over time with you. Now, don't get me wrong, that's not me saying that he shouldn't make time for you. He absolutely should. But understand that his priority is going to be what he is very driven in. So you need to know for yourself, if this is a guy who is quite successful, a guy who is very driven, and he is working a lot of the time, are you willing to accept the trade-off that you may have less quality time with him compared to the average couple? Some people are willing to, some people aren't, but you have to decide that for yourself. The next thing is that if the man is very desirable, the trade-off is that women will be trying to take him from you. Now, for a lot of women, out of 50 guys that might approach them, whether they approach them in the bar, in a club, if they slide into their DMs, if they're on a dating app, for most women, out of 50 guys that would try and approach them, the average woman would only give anywhere between 2 to 5 of those men a chance to go on a date. Out of 50 guys, the average woman would only give 2 to 5 of those guys a chance. Only that handful of guys out of 50 that women would go, oh yeah, I like the look and vibe of you enough that I'll go on a date with you. And generally speaking, because women have much higher standards than men, which is fair enough, out of 50 guys, not a lot of guys actually tick those boxes. In fact, most of them don't. And so because very few guys do tick those boxes, it means the 1 or 2 that you may find desirable out of the 50, other women are going to find him desirable as well. Because desirable men can be hard to come by. It's not every day that you come across a guy that you really, really want and that you really want to take seriously. So because there can be few and far between with these kind of men, if a woman finds a guy who matches her criteria, even if he's in a relationship, she may go through extensive lengths to try and get him. And I've seen this happen before. Simply put, Some women just cannot be trusted. Now, this doesn't obviously mean that he's going to be swayed if he's in a relationship with you. Because if he's a man of principle, he's a man of his word, if anything changes, he's going to communicate that to you before anything happens. So if he says to you, hey, I'm here with you and you are all that I care about, it doesn't matter if 10 other women want him, he's only focused on you. However, it's going to be the case that maybe other women are going to be trying to get him, knowing full well that he's in a committed relationship. And this is just something to be mindful of. And the best mindset to have if this is the case, where you're with a guy that other women want, the best way to think about it is A, you have a connection with him. You know what you have with him. He knows what he has with you. So some random girl trying to approach him, maybe even throwing herself at him, isn't going to be enough to sway him from what you both have. Or B, if he is the kind of guy to be swayed so easily despite what you have, then the sooner you know that, the better. But this comes with the territory of being with a very high value, desirable guy, and something you should be aware of before jumping into that. The next thing is that if his strength is that he is a strong, capable leader, the trade-off is that he may always expect you to be on his program. He may always expect you to be on his program, even when he might be wrong. Now, a lot of women express that they want a man who is capable of being a good leader for the relationship. A man they can rely on, a man who's going to be their rock, a man who can make a plan, a man who can make a decision. Now, while these are very good qualities, if a man is going to be the leader in your relationship, it means there are going to be certain expectations he's going to have of you. He's going to expect you to be on his program. He's going to expect you to follow his lead. Now, there may be times where he may be wrong and you may want to express when he may be wrong. And if he's a good man, if he's a good leader, he's going to listen to what you have to say. Because if he's chosen you, it means he values your mind and he values your opinion and your input. But at the end of the day, if he sees himself as the leader, the final word always comes down to him. And he's not always going to get it right. No one is right 100% of the time. But even when he is going to get it wrong, he's going to still expect you to follow, because a leader can only lead when someone is willing to follow. So if that's what you're looking for, just know that this comes with territory. This next one that you're going to have to be wary of is that if his strength is that he is very well respected by others and his peers, the trade-off is that he expects you to be very respectable. This means that he's going to have an expectation of you to not do anything that disrespects the relationship how he sees it. And this can be anything from going on crazy girls' hen nights to wearing provocative clothing when you go out. It depends on the man, it depends where he is, depends what circles he's in. You may want to go on a hen night where you could be jumping up and down the pole, but he may not want you to do that because he thinks, well, if anybody sees you doing that as my woman, that can look bad on me and on us. And look, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but this is something that comes with the territory when you're with a man who is very, very respectable. I mean, let's think about it. Do we really think that Obama would have become president if Michelle was seen twerking on a pole in the club? Everyone knows that he had to be squeaky clean and his wife had to be squeaky clean. So depending on what the guy does, depending on the circles or communities that he's part of, public image may be very important to him, especially if he is someone who is highly respected. Because at the end of the day, if you're the person that he's going to choose to marry and you're the person who's going to be getting his last name, then that respect that everybody affords him is going to be afforded to you as his wife or as his woman. This next thing that you have to maybe accept is that if the strength is that he earns enough that you have the luxury to not have to work, the trade-off is that if you don't work, you are completely dependent on him. Now, there's nothing wrong with being dependent on a man, especially when it's a man who you love, who you respect, and who you would trust with your life. That's absolutely fine because you've clearly chosen the right kind of guy for you. But the reason I'm bringing this point up is because women have fought to have their independence for decades. Women fought to be able to have the choice. Now, this would be a choice that you're making to be dependent on him. But women did fight for the right to have their own financial independence. So they couldn't be controlled or dictated by a man that they are financially dependent on. This is why even if you don't have to, there's nothing wrong with having a part-time job with something that you're passionate about, which is what I would always recommend. Now, what if you do want the luxury of not having to work? What if you don't really want to put in any hours anywhere else? How can you ensure that him having financial leverage on you doesn't hurt you later down the line? Well, this is where who you choose is absolutely paramount. There is nothing wrong with being completely dependent on a guy. Suppose that he is the right kind of guy to be dependent on, because not everybody who is given power uses it to abuse. A man of honor, of morals and integrity, even if things go bad, he is always going to want to make sure that the woman that he has chosen is taken care of in some way, that he would never try and use his position to abuse or manipulate her. Also as well, there's this natural instinct in men to want to protect the women in their life, even if they're on bad terms. And it's been this way for hundreds, if not thousands of human history. But what I will say is that if you do choose a man just because of the money he has, without actually knowing his character on a deeper level, then you enter at your own risk. This next thing that you have to think about is that if the strength is if you marrying him, you become part of his legacy, the trade-off is that you may have to sign a prenup. Look, I'm just gonna be honest with you. Marriage today is a terrible deal for men. Many men today see other men get economically, financially, and emotionally devastated through the divorce courts and divorce systems. And it's actually one of the biggest reasons why men over the age of 40 commit suicide, because they've been through such a devastating divorce. Because let's just be real and let's just be honest, divorce and family courts are heavily biased in the woman's favor. And even with all that, there are still men who want to get married. But for the high value man who does want to get married, he's not stupid. They may want to do that, but they're also very smart about how they go do that. And so a man of value might want to protect himself if things don't work out the way he wants them to. Now, I know this doesn't sound romantic, but at the end of the day, marriage is a contract between the couple and the state. And if he is some kind of a businessman, then he's going to be looking the contract like any other business contract. And like any other business deal, he's going to want to protect himself should things go wrong. It's this mindset that probably got him to where he is. And so all the things I just went through aren't actually things that you have to do for a man, but that if you're going to be with a man who is considered top shelf, who is considered a high quality guy, then these are some of the things that you are likely going to have to accept. Now for you, if some of these things just don't really fit well with you and don't vibe with you, then that's okay. It may just mean that this kind of guy at this kind of level may not be compatible with you. That maybe somebody else on a different kind of level is more perfect for what you're looking for and has compromises and trade-offs that you are willing to make. It's your choice what you decide to get into, but we have to know what we're getting into before we decide to do it. As I was always taught, if you fail to prepare, prepare to fail. So let's always be prepared. So if you're ready to attract this kind of man into your life, then enroll in my Claim Your Man program below, where I show you how to do just that. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, keep it slick.